the unsurpassed, profound, and wondrous Dharma is varying with even 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth. The unsurpassed, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rarely met with even 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth. The unsurpassed, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rarely met with even 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Wonderful to see you all. How are you doing? Okay, thumbs up, great. Well, keep it up. A student asked her teacher, "How can my sitting save the world?" And the teacher answered, "It saves the world from you." It's a common question. Where is compassion in this practice? It looks like it's all about wisdom. There's the story of Bodhidharma when he came from India and was invited by the emperor of China. And the emperor asked him, "What is the merit that I'm gaining from all the good deeds that I'm doing? I'm building temples, I'm making donations to the Buddhists, to the monks. So what is that merit?" So he obviously was expecting an answer, and Bodhidharma said, "No merit." And then the emperor asked, "So what is the meaning of the holy truth?" And the Bodhidharma said, "Vast emptiness, nothing holy." And the emperor asked, "Who is it who stands before me?" "Don't know." So the emperor didn't understand. And Bodhidharma left. And then later, the emperor asked his Buddhist teacher, "So who was that person?" And he said, "Oh, he is the incarnation of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of infinite compassion." And in the Heart Sutra, which is about emptiness, no eyes, no ears, all empty. But who is practicing? It's the Bodhisattva of compassion. It's Avalokiteshvara, who is practicing Prajnaparamita and relieves all suffering. Shakyamuni taught sentient beings out of compassion after his awakening. When he realized that the whole world is one event, that everybody is already perfect and wonderful. And he was so amazed by this experience that at first he thought he wouldn't be able to conveyed that to anybody. But then after a while, he decided, I do need to try and teach. And that's what he did for 40 years. He walked around the country and taught people of all ways of life, kings and beggars and prostitutes, butchers. There was no difference. He taught everybody. And Dogen Zenji also started teaching after his enlightenment. He wrote an essay pretty much at the same time as the Fukanzazengi, right at the beginning when he came back in 1231. He wrote Bendowa of the Endeavor of the Way. And he gives an account of his way-seeking mind and his travels all over the place to find the answer. And so he says here in Bendowa, finally, I studied with Zen Master Rujing and completed my life's quest of the great matter. I came back to Japan with the hope of spreading the teaching and saving sentient beings, a heavy burden on my shoulders. So he also had this wish to save beings from suffering. Just like the Buddha, he was also not quite sure if this was a good idea, if there were people who were ready for this. So he says, maybe I should wait for a while and, just wander about. But then he says, yet there may be true students who are not concerned with fame and gain and who allow their thought of enlightenment to guide them. How can they nourish the correct seed of prajna and have the opportunity to attain the way? Because I feel concerned for them, I would like to record the standards of Zen monasteries, which I personally saw and heard in great song, as well as the profound principle which has been transmitted by my master. So he says here, he wants to found a monastery, and he did. And he wants to convey the teaching as well as the pure standards of Zen practice. And later on, he wrote many rules of conduct. He gave the precepts. He wrote about what the officers in the monasteries should be doing, how they should be working. So he gave a lot of teachings, but the main teaching was Zazen. And he gives the answer of what his question was first. Why do we have to practice if we're already enlightened? And he says, although this inconceivable Dharma is abundant in each person, it is not actualized without practice, and it is not experienced without realization. So this is important, this actualization. And it can only be experienced when one wakes up. I think it's stuck. So he says, when you release it, it fills your hand. How could it be limited to one or many? When you speak it, it fills your mouth. It is not bounded by length or width. In the Fukanzazengi, he says, learn to take the backward step that turns the light and shines it inward. Your body and mind will drop away and your original face will be manifest. So this original or authentic face is the true self. And it's not different from the body mind, but it is much bigger. It was there before your parents were born. It's that emptiness, it's empty of inherent existence. And the body mind that we're experiencing is limited. But the big self, the true self, is unlimited. And it includes everything. It includes the whole world. So that true face will be manifest when we sit and let go of body mind, of our conventional small self. And a person who has found this true self will have great influence through the demonstration of peace and freedom. So there are many stories. You may know the story of Angulimala, who was a serial killer in India. And he saw the Buddha one day and thought, oh, there's another victim. And he ran after him. But as fast as he tried to run, he could not catch up with the Buddha. So he said, stop. And the Buddha turned around and said, I have stopped long time ago. Now you stop. And Angulimala became a monk. And then there's also a story in China, and I'm sure there are many stories, but this one where a Zen monastery was attacked and all the monks fled, but the master stayed behind in doing zazen. And a warrior came into his room and pulled his sword, but the teacher did not budge. And he said, do you not know I'm the one who can kill you? And the master said, do you not know that I'm the one who can be killed? And the warrior bowed down and said, please teach me. And then there's a more contemporary story about that happened in the Vietnam War, when there were Viet Cong soldiers who were going to destroy a monastery, and they came into the zendo and they found that there were a great many people sitting in silence, monks and nuns. And there was so much peace. One of the soldiers wrote this down that I read, and he said it was such an amazing feeling of peace in this room that we just went away. And he became a monk himself. So all these stories show us that it is possible to show compassion and to show our enlightenment, our freedom, our peace that we can experience when we have done this, when we are doing this practice. and it has a great influence on the world. I told last time that there was a lot of upheaval in Japan at the time when the Buddha, when Dogen was living there, and political changes, a lot of natural disasters that were happening, and I feel it's very similar. This time that we're living now is very similar in a way. We also have natural disasters and we have political upheaval. It's very similar. So we have to find a way that we can be peaceful, that we can find equanimity and resilience, because we will need that. This will be more difficult. And I think we are called to bring this peace that we are experiencing into the world and teach others and show that it is possible to be peaceful and that we are really one. And I think it is happening that many people nowadays find the practice of meditation or mindfulness, maybe not as a religion, but at least they're getting something out of it. And I think there is a movement in that direction, that people feel we need something else. And I think that as Zen people, as Zen practitioners, we really have a role to play in this situation. So Zazen itself gives rise to compassion. This visceral realization of impermanence and interdependence awakens at the same time a profound wish to share this insight. And this is the bodhicitta, the wish for enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. So this is pretty much what I wanted to talk about, and I hope that you can find inspiration and have a good time here with us, and hopefully find peace and calm at home. Thank you very much. Pardon?
Would you like to take any questions from me?
Sure, yeah.
There's still 15 minutes.
Yeah, there is time, so if anybody would like to ask questions or have comments, that would be great. Can we do this?
Yes.
So,
So.
It might be easiest if you just repeat the question.
yeah, sure.
They just have
I need to hear it.
unmute themselves.
And yeah, so if you unmute yourself, and
Okay, except now we have to,
It might be better to type it into the chat room.
let's do that.
yeah, okay, so
Thank you.
it's better to type it into the chat so that, and I can read it.
I'll try and see.
Does anybody here have a question or make a comment? You on.
I was thinking that in Shakyamuni's time too, there was great upheaval in India.
Right.
And it almost seems like the lotus and muddy water, that the cactus blooms when there's all this upheaval and
Yes.
confusion.
Could you hear that? Could you hear Muon speak? No, she says it also in Shakyamuni Buddha's time, there was political upheaval, and I know that there were many religions, many teachings coming up, many teachers who were teaching at the same time as Shakyamuni, and there was this quest for peace also and freedom. Yeah. And she says it's like the lotus coming out of muddy water. You know, that's the image of the flower that grows in the mud and it grows beyond the water and has this beautiful flower at the top. That is the image of a bodhisattva. We live in the muddy world, but we can show the beauty.
Thank you.
Kathleen?
Oh, I'm
No?
sorry. I didn't have a comment, but I really did enjoy it very much.
Well, we can sit. Or I can read a little bit more of the Benduwa. Would you like to hear that?
Sure.
Okay.
You have the copy.
Yeah. So we have time, yeah.
We have till 8:05.
I thought it was 7:50 for some reason. Okay, so I'll just start reading that on the endeavor of the way that he wrote, that Dogen wrote in 1231, and it was the first piece that he later put in the Shobogenzo. So all Buddha Tathagatas who directly transmit inconceivable Dharma and actualize supreme perfect enlightenment have a wondrous way, unsurpassed and unconditioned. Only Buddhas transmit it to Buddhas without wearing off. Self-fulfilling samadhi is its standard. Sitting upright, practicing Zen, is the authentic gate to the unconfined realm of this samadhi. Although this inconceivable Dharma is abundant in each person, it is not actualized without practice, and it is not experienced without realization. When you release it, it fills your hand. How could it be limited to one of many? When you speak it, it fills your mouth. It is not bounded by length or width. All Buddhas continuously abide in it, but do not leave traces of consciousness in their illumination. Sentient beings continuously move about in it, but illumination is not manifest in their consciousness. The concentrated endeavor of the way that I'm speaking of allows all things to come forth in enlightenment and practice, all inclusiveness with detachment. Passing through the barrier and dropping off limitations, how could you be hindered by nodes in bamboo or knots in wood? After the thought of enlightenment arose, I began to search for Dharma, visiting teachers at various places in our country. Then I met priest Myozen of Kenin Monastery, by whom I was trained for 9 years. Thus I learned a little about the teaching of the Rinzai school. Priest Myozen alone, as a senior disciple of ancestor Esai, correctly transmitted this unsurpassable Buddha Dharma. No one can be compared with him. Later, I went to Great Song, China, visited masters on both sides of the Zi River, and heard the teachings of the 5 schools. Finally, I studied with Zen Master Rujing of Taibo Peak and completed my life's quest of the great matter. Then at the beginning of the Shaoding era in 1228 to 33 of Great Song, I came back to Japan with the hope of spreading the teaching and saving sentient beings, a heavy burden on my shoulders. However, I will put aside the intention of having the teaching prevail everywhere until the occasion of a rising tide. I think of wandering about like a cloud or a waterweed, studying the wind of the ancient sages. Yet there may be true students who are not concerned with fame and gain, and who allow their thought of enlightenment to guide them. And they may be confused by incapable teachers and obstructed from the correct understanding. indulging in smug self-satisfaction, they may sink into the land of delusion for a long time. How can they nourish the correct seed of prajna and have the opportunity to attain the way? If I'm wandering about, which mountain or river can they call on? Because I feel concerned for them. I would like to record the standards of Zen monasteries, which I personally saw and heard in great song, as well as the profound principle which has been transmitted by my master. I wish to leave for students of the way the teaching of the Buddha's house. This is indeed the essence. Okay, we have one more chapter here. Now, the great master Shakyamuni entrusted Dharma to Mahakashyapa at the assembly on Vulture Peak. It was then correctly transmitted from ancestor to ancestor down to Venerable Bodhidharma. Bodhidharma himself went to China and entrusted Dharma to the great master Huike. This was the beginning of Dharma transmission in the Eastern country. In this way, by direct transmission, it reached the sixth ancestor, Zen master Dajian. That is Huineng. Then the true Buddhist teachings spread in China, and the teaching that is not concerned with theories took form. At that time, there were two outstanding disciples of the sixth ancestor, Nanwei Huairang and Queen, I don't know how to say that. They both equally received the Buddha's seal as masters of human beings and devas. Their two lineages spread, and later the 5 gates opened, the Faiyan school, the Guiyang school, the Saodong school, the Yunmen school, and the Linji school. At present in Great Song China, only the Linji school prospers throughout the country. But in spite of their different styles, each of the 5 houses holds the single seal of the Buddha mind. In China, after the later Han Dynasty, the teachings of Buddhist scriptures were introduced and spread all over the land. But there was no conclusive teaching as yet. When Bodhidharma came from India, the root of twining lines was immediately cut off, and the pure single Buddha Dharma spread. We should hope that it will be like this in our country. So this goes on, but this is basically what I wanted to tell you. So I hope that you enjoyed that and you can read more of it. So there are no questions. And so we may as well end here. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
May our attention equally penetrate everything and place with the true merit of Buddha's way. Beings are numberless, high above freedom. Illusions are inexhaustible. I vow to Brahman, Dharma gates are ours. I vow to Brahman, the Buddha is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. Beings are numberless. I vow to freedom. Delusion